Good morning, everyone. This is Biz Chicks TV. This is the place where you can find tips and tools to help you do business better. We're here to help you run a profitable business that's fun to run and to take the hassle out of your household. And today we're here with Coach Caren, our money mindset coach, all the way from Toronto, Canada. How you doing, Coach?
Good, good.
Good. I'm Carolina from California Cover Up, and my co-host is Francine Gregory, real estate entrepreneur and tech diva, is running all this wonderfulness in the background. So we want to give her a shout out. Woo! Thank
Woo,
you
woo.
so much, Fran. Yes, she's got us over here on Facebook, Periscope, YouTube. Girl, she's a whiz. So if you're looking for somebody to help you produce your program, you need to contact us here at BizChick.
Yes.
In the meantime, we're going to get started because on Wednesdays we always talk about our money mindset. Things that are holding us back from making a profit in our business, from being better in our lives, and all of that is being helped along with nuggets from Coach Caren. Thank you so much, Coach, for helping us master these issues. Without further ado, we're going to get started. What's on the agenda today, Coach?
Today we're talking about telling your story through your pain because it's really your beliefs that's happening that's
Hmm.
allowing you to. It's not like it's wrong or right, but it's the kind of memory you treasure and what you do. And my same friend was talking about yesterday, pricing. Like we had to do some pricing strategy. She had a call on a call, and I was like, "You're not sending the price. You're going to email them the price. You're going to set up the proposal nicely. Nothing on the phone. This is not good because you're thinking on your feet, and this is not your expertise." So we set the price in. We got everything ready, so she's ready to go. But although you're working through your stuff, when
Hmm.
these things come up, it really showcases certain things because we also work through that part of it. When these things come up, it shows you who you are as a person when it comes to money. Every
Hmm.
time somebody asks you what something costs, it shows you who you are when you talk or deal with money every single time. And it's not good or bad, but if you're in the pain state at the moment, you behave differently versus if you've worked through the pain. So I get back to the pain story in a minute. This is a little off track, but it'll connect itself later. But this, when somebody asks you the price of something, for instance, hesitating is not an issue, but it is an issue if you are feeling within yourself. Because remember, the person don't know if you're feeling in yourself that you're charging too little or too much.
Hmm.
'Cause it could be either. It's never not only too little, but I usually come across the more too little because we start thinking about where the person is at, what they're doing, and how much money they don't have. We
Hmm.
deciding for the people, and we don't know this, but we decide for the people. When people charge too much, maybe they're a little bit overconfident because now also they're making up for the monies that they didn't charge previously. It never works that way either. So you have to understand the state you're in, what you're feeling. That pain, I mean, I'm talking about what you're feeling. All right. So
Hmm.
let me jump right into what we're talking about today, which is telling your story through the pain. Why am I
Okay.
saying this? Because all this month we've been talking about pain, and I'm going to go back a little bit and then come into my story. We first deal with on the 4th of December. We talk about the meaning of pain, the discomfort, physical, mental, and all that stuff. And then last week I talk about fueling, using that pain to fuel you to sell. And this is kind of part of it. I decided to leave out the other big chunk because I'll take that at another time. And I really dive
Hmm.
into other areas because it was needed last week. And I always tell the mystics, I tell Terry and Fred, I said, if sometimes I come with my lesson plan, but when God got a different plan for me for something to talk about,
I
that's
hear
what I
you.
talk about.
Good, good job. Thank you for being obedient.
Yeah, because that's what needed to be heard. Whether somebody
Uh,
say yes or no, that's what they need to hear. So that's what happened. And today, likely to, I had part of it, but went and look at my notes. I'm like, holy crap, that's what I'm talking about there, aren't I? And there it is. So we're talking about moving through your pain. while you tell your story. And most of us want things to be perfect. And we want it to be perfect, especially women, because we were told as kids about getting things perfectly done. Some parents actually says it, and some parents actually behave in a manner that you think you have to have it perfectly done.
Mm.
Because correcting a child when they do something not to your standard is okay. But nitpicking at things because you are pushing them, not necessarily pushing them in the right direction, but pushing them because of how you're feeling. One of the things I
Uh-huh.
learned quickly, one of the things I learned quickly years ago, my grandmother was a person that never spanked, never beat, never hit. And I grew up with her in my, years, bigger years. And she would speak to you very quietly
Mm.
when you did something wrong. Like you had to lean into hear. It was never a shout. And she said when she was growing up, she hated being, given a spanking because most times she did nothing because she was very sick most of her life before
Mm.
she turned an adult. So the other siblings, seven of them, would do a lot of things and then push her to the front and she would get wailed up. And because the mom is, hitting left, right, and center, they're under the bed. And she was very fierce. So she'd come up with all these marks. And then once she's out with all these marks, the mom is upset the second time around. So here we go again. And she said, never really helps, but they keep doing it. But what it did to her was put this kind of fear in her heart, and she hated it. So she didn't want to transfer that fear, that kind of fear, anyhow, into somebody else. What I learned over time, though, when a mom beats a child, whips a child, most times, not every time, but most times, they're beating the child because they're frustrated and they're angry about something else. The
Mm.
spanking very rarely correlates with what the child did. You are taking out your regression, you're paying everything on that child. That's what you do, whether you understand it or not. And then when I started taking parenting classes, I was head on the nail. I didn't know how to operate without the spanking, though. I didn't have an alternative method initially. So I worked from what I knew. But the minute I started realizing and I started learning and teaching myself and taking the steps, the necessary step, the training to better myself, I became a better parent, I believe. It was a year-long training. It had different sections. A lot of people drop out of the program because people were frustrated with what he was teaching. But what he was teaching is how we behave, our psyche, and how we behave with our kids because of how our parents had behaved with us. Now, on the other hand, my mom, I used to call her the beat god because she would pile it up together and you would get the trashing of your life or whatever. And she wouldn't stop. Sometimes people have to pull her off of you because she would just reel in. And later on in life, when we were able to talk about it, and most of the beating was not what we did, but was what else came up as she, was upset and angry with us. What does this have to do with your story? All these things that you feel or buried or push aside come up in your life at different times. And sometimes you don't even recognize that it was present, it was visiting you until you were in it, you're midway, and you feel like you're boxed in and you can't do anything about it. Let's push that straight over to business now. When you're in business and you are trying to get things done right and perfect, because it's what a lot of people are striving for, being perfectly imperfect is what you need to strive for, by the way. That's what we strive for. I used to strive for it because part of my psyche was remembering the pain and how I felt when things weren't done well,
Mm.
how the response I got when things weren't done well. The praise was very little, but the the response of anything that didn't fit in with this certain framework that I was boxed into made me feel at different points in time, that I wasn't doing something because I would always be pushing myself to learn better. Now, that part paid off, but some people never get past what I just talked about. Some people just never get past that. Some people are stuck in that. So because they're stuck in that, the story that they're telling themselves, the story that they're going through, they can't thrive, they can't get to the abundance, they can't get past the struggle because the pain is so great, so huge, so burdensome on their shoulders that getting past that to get to where God really wants them to be is such a tremendous journey that getting there is taking longer than it should. It's taking the 40 years, like years we like to get there because the pain is so huge. They haven't been able to work through it. But what happens with telling your story, it allows you to work through the pain. Every time you tell your story, you are lifting some of the burden away from you. Some of telling the story is done privately. Some is done in front of the mirror. Some should be done while you're showering so you can wash some away. And some should be done on paper. And some of the story should be shared. When you do certain the ones in the shower, you're probably gonna wash, you're gonna cry, you're gonna shed like crazy. The mirror, the same thing, because you have to watch you. And if you are deep enough, you are watching maybe your 30-year-old self, your 40-year-old self, if you're old as I am. If you're in your 20s, you're probably watching your teenage self, your younger self. If you're strong enough to continue this journey, you probably are watching you very, very young. If you remember who you were when you were young, I remember myself from 4. So I can go all the way back there and literally visualize some scenes with myself. And if the pain is strong enough, I might cut it off because I might want to enter into that realm at the time. I'm going to drink some water.
Okay, so my question is, why are we going back through these decades? What are we unpeeling?
We're on peeling, and especially we're coming to the end of the year. And I think that's why I needed was to talk about this because I'm hopeful and I'm saying to people, don't take it over to 2020.
Ah.
Leave it here. Drop it off, shower it off, bathe it off, get rid of it off,
Mm-hmm.
get it out of the way because
Mm-hmm.
it's humbugging. It's take we used to humbugging. It's taking away from you moving forward. It's keeping you in this comfortable, uncomfortable place. But you're so comfortable in the
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable place that you're not seeing that it's the pain. Why are you telling your story and you're walking through the pain? Because the more you tell it, the less burden you carry, the more you're feeling free of it. It's not holding you in bondage anymore. And through that pain, you're helping people. Anyway, through our stories, we help people. But could you imagine, Terry, if you're so bowed down in your pain, you can't get to give the person the lesson. You can't give them the true lesson. They're like, listen to your story, they're confused. What am I supposed to take away from this? Or they take away, oh, this is how it's supposed to feel, and they go off and they're in more pain. Our job, three things in our job in the story: the beginning, how we solve it, the lesson we learn, and the lesson you're giving to the person who's listening. That's the purpose of our story.
Ah. Okay.
So the first thing is the beginning. You telling the story, and the reason I talk about all that stuff up front is because you're doing that behind closed doors. Nobody's seeing you doing it. You're just getting rid of. Okay. And then so when you're writing the story now, because you've passed through when you're writing the story, and I know stories got different parts. You write in the beginning, the way you solve it, the lesson you learn, and the lesson you're giving to the people who is hearing your story. If you haven't dealt with some of the pain, we know pain, is an ongoing thing. If we haven't dealt with some of the pain and you pushed it down so far, you didn't do anything with it,
Mm-hmm.
it'll come back up. And every time it comes back up, depending on how it shows up, it stops you in your track.
Mm.
It make you feel you can't go forward. It make you feel the thing that you think you can do, that you really could do, you think you can do. Case in point, if you had a mom who said to you for years, or whoever you raised with, you can't do that. People like you don't get that. People like you can't have that. It sounds so simple. Like, why would that bother a child? Why do I bother a teenager? Well, some people it didn't bother them on the surface, but it bothered their subconscious. So every time
Mm.
they go to do, the subconscious reminds them about this incident. Not the way we're talking about it, in different forms. And so they start telling themselves, no, because we're the biggest bully, I can't do that. I wouldn't know where to start. They can do that, but that's not my kind of thing. That's not for me. You're repeating a whole bunch of words. Yeah, it's just words, but you've been telling yourself the same thing all along. The doctors of the world, the people who knew they wanted to be a doctor from day one, had doubt
Mm-hmm.
too. They had self doubt, but they worked past and worked through it. The people who operate on us when we have a surgery, those people work past on a regular basis their self worth, work through
Mm-hmm.
whatever pain, whatever mistakes they've made, whatever has happened to them in their lives. And now you see them showing up because you don't know the past. But that's because they work through their story. Given we're online, so our stories, we tell it so people buy, so we use your content and what have you. Remember, everybody's got their painful story in some shape or form. I don't care how rich or where you're born, how you grew up, you've got your story. Is it as painful as mine? Maybe not. Is people own more painful than mine? Of course.
Uh,
But whatever that story is, whatever pains you, this is the other thing. Whatever pains you, it doesn't
mm-hmm.
matter how deep or how you can't measure it against mine. It's just your pain. You have to
Uh-huh.
understand it. The person's pain is the person's pain. It didn't matter. It really didn't matter. If you say, well, Karen, I didn't, that person didn't have such a hard upbringing like you, so that's why they're where they are. No, you don't know. They're telling you the part that is suitable for you.
Mm-hmm.
I've spoken to people who tell me it just surfaced, but the deeper we get into the relationship, more things unfold. And what happens at times, sometimes they bury it so far and they can't even remember. They can't remember that pain. So they couldn't relate anything to it. But subconsciously they were relating to it, but they weren't aware of it. They weren't aware of it. So when you ask me why I'm talking about peeling back the layers, we're
Uh-huh.
at the end of the year. If you've been carrying, struggling, not sure how to go forward, not sure what's holding you back, examine a bit. You don't have to go all the way as I'm saying, but examine a bit. See where
Okay.
you're at. See what needs to get done. Do it. And then,
I think this is a really important year too because it's the end of a decade,
yes,
and so at least every 10 years we should do a self.
right? See where we're at, see where we're going, see what's going on, see what's happening. I
Cool.
remember when I turned 40, I took a full month off work. Just a full month off work. I skedaddle. I did nothing. I self-examined. I mean, everybody was panicking around me because they're like, she's working for a month. I'm a worker bee. Oh my God. I was just dealing with some things and I felt I needed the time. I said it was 2 weeks, but I ended up realizing I needed a month. So I took a month. That's the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Take the time you need to work through. This is a journey. Don't worry about the destination. This is a journey. And you
Okay.
will be better off if you work on working on you. Jim Rohn always liked to say this. He says, if you want to get to where you want to be, you need to work on you. You're really not needing to work on anybody else, just you. Because when
Mm-hmm.
you work on you, because you're only in control and in charge of you, and when you work on you, the other thing miraculously seem to fall into place. And if I went back and when I first started listening to him talk about that, and I went back and do a lot of self-examination, and I said, yes, yes, I always have done a lot of work on me, especially when I'm feeling stuck or I'm feeling being taken advantage of at different
Mm-hmm.
spots in my life. I go back to see what door I open, who I let in, and how far I let them in to my house.
Uh-huh.
Because
Hi, Jerry. How you doing? Uh-huh.
I did
Jerry's
that.
watching.
Hi,
Mm-hmm.
Jerry. I did that. I let them in. I allow them to. And now what am I going to do about it? Well,
Mm.
I escort them out and close the door. I have to escort them out. And it's usually a painful session, but it has to be done because nobody's going to do it for me, especially if I don't want them in there anymore. I have to escort them out. And that's the hard thing for a lot of folks to do, especially when people are very close to you, to get them out. It's hard,
Mm.
but you gotta, because some people come into your life and they pull you down again. My client and I was talking about that yesterday. The people who had to exit her life, like she loved them, she loved to be,
Uh-huh.
have them there, but they couldn't because what they were taking away from her, what they were extracting from her. She didn't realize the door she opened, and when I told her she opened that door, she says, "Ah, Caren," and then well, of course, she had to let them in to see what they were messing with, and then she opened the door and let them exit. Yeah, because the people that's so close to you and so you just feel like you have to help them. We don't have to help
Mm-hmm.
everybody. Let me just say, we don't have to help everybody. Okay, they're not our assignment. I'm gonna go with Terry says this. They're not our assignment.
Everybody is not your customer. Yes.
Let the people be. Okay, so we have to know this. We have to know this. I know this is a little deep. I know I would come and talk to you about my money, but I felt when I was given this message to deliver in December about pain, I was hesitant
Uh-huh.
about it because I had my own agenda. And every time I say, so what part of it I'm going to talk, I know what I'm going to talk about. It
Mm-hmm.
just flows. So, and I always say to you guys, I know when it's the right thing to talk about because it just flows. I don't have to be searching. It just flows. That's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be talking about. That's what I'm supposed to be telling people about because a lot of people are in pain for different reasons. A lot of people are hanging on to things that they don't need to hang on to anymore.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are afraid of certain discussion. I mean, even with themselves.
Yes.
2019, I struggled this whole year. Why did I struggle? Ask yourself, what was I holding on to? What pain was holding me bondage? Why did I hold on to it for so long? Last week I
Mm-hmm.
spoke on, home people would always say, in January is a hard month. And people would say to me, kind of, you don't seem to have hard months in January. I guess you're a big shot because that's what people like to tell you home. It's no, it's that I don't see January as a struggle month. So that's why I wasn't struggling. You've decided January was a struggle month, so you're struggling.
Okay. And Yolanda says, not my assignment.
Exactly. Exactly. You dare go getting into other people's assignments. Because the
Mm-hmm.
stores, even though we always hear Christmas is the best month to sell, we do all our sales in December. You got to be careful when you start as a small business owner, as an individual that has a company or just a hustle. You can get into what other people are talking about. They're talking broad. You have to get narrow and deep for yourself. So you have to know what you need to do. And your job, if you're the first year, you don't that you just you if you were in the first year of business and this was your first year, you had 4 seasons. So you were learning about your seasons. That's all that was. Next year, you're supposed to apply what you learn in those seasons so that you do better in the season. If you're in the winter season, and by the way, it doesn't have to be snowing for you to be in the winter season. Let me just tell you.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in the winter season, that's when you hibernate. And what that means is you are learning, you're paying attention, and you are taking what you're paying attention. Because when spring comes, you're going to activate what you've been learning, what you've been deeply embedded in. So that in the summer, when the sun is shining, you're feeling happy. You can be raking in some dollars. So you could settle down in the fall if we want to go seasons. All right. January is the month. November, January, October, any one of those months we're talking about where people are starting to kind of pace themselves, move back, retreat. When you start understanding your season, so that's the month. But if your season happened to not fall as the season of the world, you got to know this too, right? And this is investigating. You got to know what season you're in, and then you work accordingly. Not about the
Mm-hmm.
people, but accordingly to you and those people, your assignment people, the people you're serving, the people you're catering to. Those people are going to come to you in an abundance, and you're going to be amazed how slowly but surely your struggle is just starting to melt away because now you're comfortably being uncomfortable. It's melting away because you understand the season you're in. You understand,
Mm-hmm.
and that really means who you're selling to. That really means the content you're creating. That really means the people you're serving. and you set it out and you go at it, it's going to be boring and tedious in the beginning, but it's going to get you there. It's going to feel painful because you're going to dredge up old pain. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm asking you to do don't mean the pain totally goes away, but I'm asking you to work through it. I'm asking you to be one with it. I'm asking you to not let it take you over. And that's why I say, get the beginning, understand how you solve it, because we've solved so many problems, each and every one of us, what lessons we learned. And I'm back to journaling. Because when you write it down, you can see it. Don't
Mm-hmm.
rely on your memory. You remember things, yes, but don't rely on it. Don't rely on your memory. Um, have it jot down. I said I've coached years ago, but I never called it coach. I said I help people. But the reason I was able to help people a lot was because we call it exercise book, we call it notepad here. But at the back of all my exercise book, anything I was doing, I had the habit. I wasn't a journaler. I didn't know anything about that. I had a habit of once I understood what I was doing and I systemize it, I would write it.
Mm-hmm.
I would write it down. I remember taking a ceramics class, and that class had no notes. And my friends just keep saying, Karen, why are you writing? There's no notes in this class. Why are you taking notes? I'm a taking notes. So
Okay.
we have an exam, and she asked us to build a pot, a pan. I think we had to make a bird and something else. I had
Yeah.
notes. So I remember while people were panicking how they're going to make the bird, Karen just take out her notes because it was those kind of open exam. It's
Mm-hmm.
crap. You open. We had to make baskets. The notes was there. How to make a basket. She told us, and I wrote it down.
It's about process. Yes.
Yes, and I wrote it down. So for people, let me touch on this quickly. When people say,
Mm-hmm.
I need a business plan, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to write a business plan, I really encourage people when you're starting off, don't run about write a business plan. You might want to write the things you want to have accomplished in your business. And when you start developing and you understand your business, start writing the plan about your business and where you
Mm-hmm.
want to see it go. That eventually, if you want to get investors in your business, you will
Yeah.
write that plan. But that would be a better plan than just poking, researching, getting numbers and handing it in. That would be a good plan. That would be
Mm.
a better business plan. All right, off the soapbox. Hmm. Any questions for me, Terry?
I think one of the things that I'm understanding is that we need to go through this so that we can identify what's holding us back and
Mm-hmm.
let it go,
Mm-hmm.
so that we don't take it into the next year. Is
Yes,
that's
please
what
don't.
we're talking about here?
Yes, please don't. Please don't. Because if you were doing that this year, you really want to be able to give a lesson next year because you have solved a problem. So you want to give lessons through your story, through telling your story, to letting people know what happened. When you read books that have lessons in them, those are the books
Hmm.
you enjoy and you love, and you're like, this was such a good book. And then I would ask people, so what did you learn from the book? Well, if you were reading for read's sake, you probably glance over it. Maybe you need to go back and read the book. But the author, a good author, is trying to tell you their story, the lesson they've learned, and what they're teaching you. That's what a good book does. That's what that person is telling you. Now, does that author finish their pain? Is everything hanky dory? No, then they're dead. No, they still have some of that. They're still working off of some of that, but
Uh-huh.
they're working through and they understand. They're not waiting for everything to line up to talk to you about it. They would not be here. That's
Mm.
why they're doing it now. And that's what you have to understand, as a person, as a business owner. It's why you're talking about the past and you're moving on to the future. That's why it has so many sections, right? Because if you tell your story now in the past 5 years or 10 years, this was a chunk you talk about. When you have the next 5 or 10 years, you do it again in a different format because now there's a difference thing that's happening to you. You've moved on. A millionaire story. If you started first listening to someone who became a millionaire, he's going to tell you about the humble beginnings. Then, if he's moving forward and he's still in the space, he or she, he's going to tell you a little more and a little more. So by the time
Hmm.
you read their books, if they have tons of books, and I read people who have books of different stages, And so you will, if you're paying attention, you start seeing their journey within the
Mm.
book, within the subject matter. Even though the subject matter is, blue, within there, they're giving you pieces of their story as they work through it, as they've learned their lesson, as they solve the problem, as they're giving you now a lesson. I read a book once where this guy was talking about having to file for bankruptcy, and he didn't. He and his wife, and they sat there and they determined how they're going to pay it off. And everybody told them, they said, you're just stupid. Bankruptcy is the way to go. You start over, forget it. But he said that he wanted to pay it off, and he had a talk with God, and God said that's the way to go. The reason is he needed to learn some lessons with him. And it's not because he couldn't, but because he could not, because then he wouldn't be where he was. He needed to go through this process. He was slack. He said it. He said, I didn't pay attention to the books. I didn't want to know about the books. And I had a partner who knows about numbers. So why would I care? God said, well, now you're going to care. And you're going to work through it. And you're going to see where you need to be. And he said it was
Mhm.
painful because he had to call all his creditors and ask them to wait. There was no
Yeah,
word. He had to say,
for an extension. Yeah.
could you wait? And then he had to talk to them about what happened. He said, pain, you talk about pain? He said at one point he told his wife, he says, why couldn't we just do like everybody else? She said, well, we're not everybody else. Right? And he says, why? She said, go on your knees and pray. He said, I am telling you, as I write, I remember her words. I was so mad with my wife. And when I was tired, she took over. She would call them. And they took turns calling their creditors. And that's because he said they were disobedient. They weren't listening to what they're supposed to do. They got themselves to such this point, things were going great. So why would they worry? They were paying their staff well. Why would they worry? But of course, things were happening in the background that they weren't aware of. But he
Mm.
still had to take responsibility because he was hard partnership. He said a flag should have go off when the person came and said, could you buy me out? I no longer want to be your partner. But it took him several months to realize why.
Wow.
So that was his lesson of pain. That was he saying, and then he gave you a lesson in it, what to do,
Mhm.
how to look, what to look for, what to see, what's the signs. But his thing was if he didn't go through it, if he wasn't obedient, he wouldn't be able to be where he's at in his business, right here, right now.
Mm.
He said, the business is doing well because he went through that struggle. He went through, I'm going to call it the comfortable, uncomfortable space that took not a year, because he said, those miracle things that you hear about doesn't happen. Took him 5 or 7 years for them to be able to clear every creditor. And he said, every time they paid, they email, apologize, and explain every single time. It sounds annoying. It sounds, why would you need to do that? He knows it's a corporation. And he said in his heart, nobody will care. But he said one day, not everybody, but one of the creditors called him and said to him, if you had X amount of whatever, we will take it and clean the slate.
Mm.
If
Mhm.
God, he don't know who is. Because the chunk the person take off was crazy good. And quite a few more did the same. Not everybody, but quite a few more did the same. Because he was obedient. He was diligently doing what he set out he was going to do. Pain is good. Pain is bad. Pain is in between. Pain is pain. You got to go through and work through it. And you can't wait for everything to be perfectly perfect to get there.
Mhm.
That's for your business. Your business don't have to be perfectly perfect for you to sell. It doesn't have to be perfectly perfect for you to give a service. You're not a fraud unless you're stealing money and not giving a service. But if you are serving people, you serve them where you are, because where you are is where somebody wants to go. They haven't been there yet. So you can help them. Now, when you're on your next journey, you help another set of people. You know,
Mhm.
the beginning, if you get a financial planner that is not helping beginner investors, that's not the guy for you if you're a beginner. You don't want to
Mm.
get the experience to who is looking after experienced people, because he's so used to it, it's so in his blood that he's going to help you like how he helped people who seasoned, which means your risk is not ready yet. And so you'll probably be in stuff. And I know it personally from my family. Somebody invested with a guy and I said, do not do it. And he did, and he lost, when he lost some big bucks, he was freaking out on me. And I said, well, I told you not to do it. And not because the guy was wrong, because you don't understand what he was telling you. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry, but you weren't in that space yet. You needed to learn some things before you dealt with it. He's so used to the bigger guns. You were like a small fish, and he just chucked you in there and give you stuff to read. But I knew the person. They're not a reader. They're not going to read the stuff. So of course, when the crowd,
And then if you haven't built a vocabulary, you don't understand it anyway.
right?
So it's just alphabet soup to you.
Thank you. You don't know
Hmm.
what's going on. You know what's going on. So you tell your story through the pain. You tell it because pain, as I said, pain is pain. But when you get over some parts of the pain, you start telling your story, that's because you solve this certain part. And that solving mean you understand your triggers. Let me tell you a little bit about it. You understand your trigger triggers you. You understand why you operate a certain way so that you can help that person understand
Hmm.
how to look for triggers. Because triggers happen with everybody differently. But there is signs, there is a commonality in how you can find and look for and see, right? That would trigger things. For me, I can't handle big shouting. Like I cannot
Hmm.
handle I just don't like it, and so I don't choose it. I don't like people screaming and shouting at me because it
Hmm.
brings back some memories that is not pleasant. So it just freaks me out.
Well, I don't like it because I just don't like it. I'm not having it. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah, I just walk away from it. Like I'm not
you know
having.
what I mean. It's just unacceptable.
Yeah,
I guess because it's just not in my background, and I just
yeah, yeah. So anytime it's happening and it's freaking out, I'm usually like, okay, bye bye. Why
yeah, I don't know. So
am
I'm looking at this now. You said we have a story,
I?
and the story's supposed to solve a problem
Mhm.
so that we can share what we've learned.
So
Is there
all
is
of
there
this solves the problem, whether we understand or not. Though you know the right, Terry.
say what?
All our story solve a problem, even if it only solve ours, and even though we think it only solve ours, all our stories
Oh,
solve the problem.
gotcha.
Mhm. And what lesson you learn from it?
Okay. Well, the story should tell us what lesson we learned.
Hmm.
Gotcha.
And right, and then you give a lesson from it because some people don't know how to take out from it. You know what I mean. Some people don't know how
Uh
to
huh.
take out from it, so you want to give them the lesson. Sometimes you need to just give it.
You need to clarify it at the end.
Yes, yes,
Okay. So what can we? Because I ask my people in my life a lot of times. So what can we learn from this?
yes.
We can learn not to blah blah blah, or we can learn to do da 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 da. Okay. So then what you're doing is at the end you're summarizing
Hmm.
what it is that we can take away from this.
Yes, yes.
Uh,
So that
what
it's
can we learn
clear.
from this?
Yeah, so that it's clear. And this leads into a lot of the sales things we talk about and a lot of the stuff we talk about. I mean, how do we connect? It's our story that connect. A mom buy from another mom because of a story she might tell the mom, right? Or the conversation they were
Hmm.
having. When my friend used to sell candle and do the candle parties, that's how she connect with people. She had two boys. Her husband traveled a lot for business, and she connect with a lot of moms who were in the same position, and loneliness and how they feel, and she connect on that ground. So she'll tell her story and why she got into the business, and how she's supplementing, and how it makes you feel, and she sold candles for calming you down, and with certain scents. And yeah, so that was the problem she saw, because she suffered from anxiety herself, so she had
Hmm.
commonality with those people. And if people who didn't have it, because some people don't have anxiety to the tilt, but they do have a little bit of it. And so, because I know she used to sell this specific lavender um, candle and some kind of a hand cream. And a friend, I had a party here for her, and I invited some friends. And I know she had a long time customer from a couple of them, because they said it really brought them down if they were having a hard day. It really made them feel calm or whatever. And she used to do really good with it. So
Because lavender is supposed to help you sleep, and it's supposed
yes,
to
yes. That's what
Relax
we know
you,
about
right?
it. Yeah, it relaxes you. When we have babies home, we put it under their foot bottom and their hand, a little by behind their ear, and the
Mm,
lavender oil, and it
mm.
yeah, it calms them down. So I know what it does. So there's so many other different things that they do these days with rather Mother Nature stuff
Mhm.
that helps calm people down. And so when you tell, and that's what those house parties is about, right? People telling you why they get into it. Right? They do a lot of
Huh.
storytelling.
Ah, they're telling you their story. Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, could we could you summarize? I think I wrote it down, so I think I understand where we went with this. Because it was interesting to me the sequence. Because usually when I think of solving something, to me that is the lesson learned. Well, but you separated those parts, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I, I separated because what I realized over time, everybody because everybody learned differently. Some
Mm-hmm.
lessons you have to really say it's a lesson and tell the person it's a lesson because some people don't know to extract a lesson from just
Got you.
hearing, and so
Don't
they
put all your eggs in one basket. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. Yeah, okay, I get it. So that's why we get those taglines at the end of little children's stories.
yes, yes, yeah,
In case
children,
you didn't
yeah,
get
fairy
it.
tales, all those stories are telling us so many things since we were growing up. But a lot of teachers also read you the story and never explained.
mm,
Whether because they couldn't, they didn't know how, or didn't know how to get it across to you, who knows? So I'm not going
mm-hmm.
to go judging, but when you become a reader yourself and start understanding, and I also had to learn or relearn when I came to Canada that a lot of people hear differently, and they don't hear the same way that you might hear something. A professor told me. So she said, Karen, you got to figure out how to make people hear and understand it. Now, I got the top of the class. I tell you, I don't even need to be there. She can send me an email and I can read the book and be right into the lessons. But there's people in my same class that if they weren't there, present, listening earnestly, it was hard for them.
Mm-hmm.
They'll get out of the class and they'll say, "Did you hear what she said? Did you hear what Wendy said?" I mean, I couldn't understand that Pacific. Got a textbook she spoke, but it still wasn't clear. And you would notice people would gravitate towards you if they understand how you understand, if they can draw from you better. Because I had asked them, like, why would they ask
Mm-hmm.
me? Like, you just spoke. She goes, well, maybe you relate it in a different way that is more understanding for them. So those people would study with me and we'll talk together about whatever that lesson was if it wasn't very clear. And so,
Gotcha.
yeah, so today we spoke on telling your story through your pain. And the reason you want to do that is you can't wait for everything to be ready. You have to understand whoever you're here to bless and help and get out of the struggle, which in turn gets you out of your struggle. Because when you're so focused on somebody else and helping them, your struggle become so minute. It's not as big and pressing anymore. So you want to get past. You want to we online. So we're talking about the online world here. And even in person, you want to tell people your story. So you start at the beginning. The beginning don't
Mm-hmm.
mean like when I was born and here what happened to me. No, the beginning of wherever you choose it to be the beginning, by the way.
The beginning of the story.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to really tell them how you solve it. You want to tell them how you solve it. And then you want to tell them the lesson that you learn from it. And then you want to give them a lesson. I had told you guys this years ago, and I'm going to mention it right now. When my cleaning business was tankering, I wrote a sign. I was not getting clients, and I just walk up and down the supermarket. It says, "Ask me why cleaning rocks." And a couple of people would whisper, some people would ask, some people wouldn't ask. But the people who would ask, we end up in a conversation, and I am talking about my business in a story format. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
usually conversationally in a story. Even if you're not telling them your story, you're telling them a story. That's why people buy. Nobody really buy cleaning services because they can't clean their houses. No, even if they don't like it. No, they buy cleaning services because they have a connection with the owner of the cleaning company. They're
Mm-hmm.
gonna come in and make them feel good. They're not buying cleaning. You know, when I figured out they're not buying cleaning, I was like, when I figured out nobody was buying cleaning services, I sold more cleans. Nobody works for me because, yeah, they like to clean, but because they can't find another job. They work for me because they love me as a boss. That's why
Mm.
they work for me. And so, whatever crap happened, they can still call me. We can have a good conversation. They're like, Karen, thank you. I'm feeling better. They like me. They love me as a boss. That's why they work for me because they could get other jobs. People who employ people need to know this. You really need to understand who you're hiring, why people are working for you. Yeah, money, sure, but they like you as a person. And then the people who you serve it like you. That's why they're buying from you. That's why they're using you. Period.
Gotcha.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah,
All righty, daddy.
I tell you, look
Woo.
at how it's winding down. We're close to next week, Wednesday. I wouldn't be here, guys, because it's what? Christmas Day. I gotta be lunching on my couch, doing absolutely nothing but eating crap. Let me just confess right now.
We're going to be eating cookies, Christmas cookies all day long. Okay. All right. Well, I hope you're saving up those calories. Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna be crying about it later. Don't worry, Terry.
Well, if we maybe if we, are what do you call it, a little frugal on this side, then we can splurge
Right?
on Christmas Day. Yeah, yeah.
All right.
But meanwhile, tell us about your upcoming programs.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. In
Hmm.
February, the 4 hour workday will be opening on the 10th of February. I
Hmm.
had some personal things dealing with this month, so I kind of just deferred and didn't worry about this month, and I just I had a date in February anyway, so I continuously gonna do that. I wanted people to come in. All right, moving forward. If you still buy this year, it's still gonna be 997. Next year price when the cart opens for the February sale, it's going to be $2,300. It's the 4 hour workday. It's a program gonna help you to write your money story so you understand
Hmm.
where you are, where your struggle is, and how you can get above. It's gonna help you to program yourself, systemize your business so that eventually you can work 4 hours a day. And why would I want you to work hard into getting into 4 hours a day work? Because I want you to have enough time in your business life so you can study, you can learn stuff that need to, because businesses change. And if you want to be the
Hmm.
CEO of your company, you've got to learn these things. You can't only work in your business, you got to work on your business. And to get there, you have to
Hmm.
get some dedicated time. And that's why I believe the 4 hour workday is one of the best things you'll ever do for yourself. You'll be learning how to market, how to sell, how to systemize, how to understand profit in your business,
Hmm.
cash flow, how to budget, all the things that make sense for you to be in business. If not, just look on. Don't bother me in it.
Fantastic. So, guys, if you're looking to improve your business for 2020 and you need some coaching assistance, we recommend Coach Karen's 4 Hour Work Week program. In addition to that, we want you to know that coming in January is an event we'd love to see you there. It's called wait a minute, I had it on the tip of my tongue.
Women,
There it is. WomenLikeMeEvent.com is where you can go and sign up for the event. And it's in January, January 20th in 2020. So, yes, and you're going to hear from subject matter experts in the field of business. So if you are looking to improve your life and improve your business, we recommend this event. Also, they are accepting vendors. So if you are a vendor, you may want to contact them to see if they still have a space. Uh, we're looking forward to it. And so BizChicks will be there and we will be on the program. So know that we will be bringing a presentation and we look
brilliant.
forward to, yeah, we look forward to seeing you all. So with that, I want to remind everybody that tomorrow is Thursday. And so we're going to be looking for a happy, healthy habits with Robin Shimizu and friends. And in the meantime, don't forget to go to the
In
front
the
of
front
your
of
own
your own
line.
line.
Have a great day, guys. See you
Bye
tomorrow.
bye.
Goodbye.